I don't see it, like with my eyes. I see it, aka picture it in my brain, but it's not the same sort of vision as the kind from your eyes. I can see the zebra in my mind right now, but I'm looking at my phone screen with my eyes. The pictures come from different places. I like to equate it to a song stuck in your head. You don't hear the music in your ears, but you can still hear all the notes inside your brain, but you're not actually listening to anything. One question. What's reading like to you? Edit. Wow, this thread popped off. Good discussion, people. As a fellow person with aphantasia, it's just words on a page. I recall the parts of the story, but I don't see it like a movie. And I get lost sometimes and need to read back over something if they describe someone by appearance instead of name, and I need to read the text again to put the story with the right person in it. You're actually in the minority. You probably have aphantasia, which means you can't really visualize things in your head. I feel I can kinda form an image, but I feel like I think more in abstracts. Like, if you say picture the front of a house, I'll say okay. But, if you ask how many windows I see, I would have no answer. My friend can picture a 3D object and rotate it in his head. I 100% can't do that. I don't think it impedes me in any way. I always just figured no two brains are alike and never gave it any concern. My mind is good with language and music and weak at visual arts, but my 3D rotating friend is the opposite. My husband has aphantasia, and it really fucked with him when he realized that, picturing something in your mind's eye, was not merely a figure of speech. Meanwhile, he'll ask me if we have a particular food item in the fridge, and I'll close my eyes, see an image of the inside of our fridge in my head, and tell him, top shelf, left side in the back. He thinks I have a superpower. I think his brain is probably a lot quieter and less cluttered. I love how partners have their own weird superpowers in relationships. My wife thinks it's hilarious that I can tell her where all the plumbing and electrical is in our new house even though I've never seen inside the walls. It's so outside what she needs to know that she doesn't get how I can do it. On the opposite side, she can crochet and knit, which to me is witchcraft pure and simple. She takes string and turns it into a hat. How the hell does that work? I can imagine, visualize, but the image is very weak, almost like a phantom image. It's not like looking at my phone screen or something. It's the first time I've heard someone put it like this. Thank God. I can just barely see a phantom image. It's fuzzy and takes concentration. I used to have more pronounced difficulty visualizing. There was a time I couldn't visualize at all. So is this phantom image thing what most people experience? Or do most visualize more vividly? It's very much a real thing. I can visualize a project I'm working on in my head and parts and pieces for that project and spin and rotate it all in my head to see how it all works together. Comes in handy when I'm at the hardware store looking for a part, but I don't know exactly what part one need. I just know what I need it to do. Find a part. Look at it and the project in my head. See if it'll work or not. If not, move on to another part. Can't imagine working on anything without this ability. It would be so hard. I do the exact same thing, but even with tools. I'll be working on my house and think, man, this'd be so much easier with a drill-like thing that bends this way but has that thing on it and turns that bit. If I've never seen one, I'll just wander the aisles of a couple local tool stores specializing in tradespeople's tools, and it's amazing how often I find the right sort of thing. I've found all sorts of tap repair tools and weird drill bits this way. I also find a lot of cool things that I don't need but want to buy because they look awesome. Like demolition hammers. Mwahahaha. Yes, I'm actually really surprised when some people tell me they cannot. So basically I'm on the opposite side of the coin as you, I guess. Almost everything I think about, it plays like a movie in my head. What is it like to not think that way? What comes in your head then? Just words and speaking. No words, no voice and no images. Like even now when typing this I just know what I'm gonna say. I don't think about it or anything. My head is always empty. Yup. I can visualize a zebra munching grass clear as day. Like in color and everything? Like an actual zebra appears to you? Not just the thought of a zebra? I wrote in this thread that I have aphantasia already, but I think in one sense that because I can't picture anything, my mind makes up for it in a different way. I can play songs that I like in my head and it sounds just like the actual song, and I can filter out instruments and vocals while actually listening and just experience something new each listen. It's actually kind of magical and makes my scalp tingle in a good way. Isn't it fun when you can hear a whole song in your head? I don't have aphantasia. Quite the opposite. But I'm also a musician, so I tend to notice and mentally record things like that. I'm like that. When I close my eyes, I am not really able to form any images. I get a mental image, which for me is really just my inner thinking voice describing what I am trying to see. But my dreams. Man, my dreams are so vivid and lifelike that I sometimes have a difficult time distinguishing them from reality. Fully color, sound, touch, feelings, smells, a wicked amount of detail. It's tiring, but amazing. It's like going to sleep and waking up in a completely different life. But I cannot visualize anything. Internal images are not like dreams. The visuals are not the same. Lots of people have vivid dreams, and lots of people have no memorable dreams, but what you're describing is normal for a dream. Nobody is seeing with their imagination. Their eyeballs are not involved. It is entirely in your head, aka a mental image. That is what visualization is. This may be NSFW, but when you masturbate, you can't even fantasize about being with someone. Gotta watch the porn. The first time I saw an article about aphantasia, I did basically the exact same thing. Turned to my fiancé and asked, "Can you see things in your mind?" He was so confused. Yes, can you not? I thought that when people said, "picture thing in your mind," that it was a turn of phrase, not that they literally could picture it. But yeah, aphantasia is wild. Right. I thought it was all figures of speech. People who say when they read a book the words disappear and they watch it in their mind like a movie. Apparently that's what they do. Yep. About 95 to 98% of the population can see something up. People like you and I are an absolute minority at 1 to 2%. About 70% of the population is fairly visual, and can see and hear things in there all day. And the other 25 to 30% are on a gradient towards our dark silence. You've seen the answer elsewhere. But for others finding this, it's called aphantasia. A lot of the 1 to 2% saw this post because like 75% of the comments are about how they have aphantasia too. I suggest you check out our aphantasia. This up. Join us in chat. You'll learn plenty and discover where you are. Sometimes I'll be remembering a film I've watched and I'll realize it's really a book I've read. This is why I'm always having trouble with my memories, especially with ADHD. I'm always in my thoughts that in the future I'd get confused if a particular thing actually happened or if it was just me daydreaming. It's really hard to distinguish both if you have a really good imagination. If you read a book, do you not have an image in your mind of what they look like? That seems almost fake to me. I mean, trust me, after reading through all of this I know it's not, but I can't even believe someone would have that capability of just creating something like that in their mind. People imagine things differently. You might have aphantasia. You might also not have aphantasia and just not consider your imagination literally seeing, in the exact sense that other people do. When you said picture a zebra in a green field, my mind went straight to a very basic image, and then realized that and made something beautiful and realistic, but it's a little blotchy. Now do a children's crayon drawing version. Curious. How are your dreams? Not op, but sounds like we have the same thing. My dreams are vivid and I usually remember them if I try to. They have sounds, colors, etc. It's baffling that I don't see anything when I close my eyes. It's just black. I can picture you picturing things in your head in my head. I pictured your Reddit avatar doing it. Anyone time someone talks about aphantasia, I feel like they just don't understand what imagining is because of their massive main character syndrome. You have what's called aphantasia, the condition of not being able to visualize in your mind. It's uncommon but not unheard of and won't impact your life negatively. There are no real solid numbers on how many people have the condition, but it's now understood to come in varying degrees. Some people have no internal monologue, or can't hear music in their heads. Some can see simple objects or only in outlines, etc. But yes, most people can see images in their mind to some degree. Not being able to isn't that unusual either though. Smiley face. This is really sad. I feel like I'm missing out on something magical. Sad face. As someone with an overactive imagination, I can pretty much really vividly imagine anything very clearly in my head. Shut my eyes or not. It is hard to explain for me. It is not really an image for me. More like a memory. Even though it is kind of there like an image but not there at the same time. I will pull the memory and can make it do what I want and make look how I want, but it not stay long at all to feel like it is there. Woo, this is getting very bizarre when I put it into words. You want a real mindfuck? Many people with dyslexia actually think in 3 dimensions and can form images in their mind that they can fully rotate. The leading theory is that the 3-dimensional thinking is actually what causes dyslexia because their mind is attempting to process words on a flat surface in 3 dimensions. And normal people can't think in 3 dimensions? How would that even be the case? I also have never been able to visualize anything in my head while it is described, even though I have a very good imagination. When I was younger I thought it was normal because when I read books they had pictures so I didn't have to visualize. Then I got older and the books had fewer pictures and books got boring cause I will forget how characters looked and stuff. But yeah, you aren't alone. I kinda hate having it cause I'm very visual. Like I can come up with these long, in-depth scenarios and daydream all day long. I just can't picture it in my mind. As someone who has dealt with a wild imagination and maladaptive daydreaming, I can assure you that, yes, people can. In fact, when your mind is used to imagining things, you can even imagine the texture, how light interacts with it, the smell of the air in the room, etc. If you imagine walking across a carpet, you can imagine how it feels under your feet. Edit. Someone actually reported this comment thinking I was going to harm myself. This is why, for me, things can get super muddled and go the opposite way right into synesthesia. Hearing clarinet music makes me see plaid and taste peanut brittle. I don't get it all the time the way some people do, but it's there. Like how the feel of carpet under my feet is green and sounds like low-pitched TV static. And that is separate from the actual feel of carpet but also not. A couple of years ago, I similarly realized that I have aphantasia and felt like I had been missing out on something amazing my entire life. Mostly forgot about it until now. Thanks for the reminder. Best I can describe it is that my thoughts exist in a vacuum. There is no image, just ideas that exist in some totally separate place. Seems like the ability to see things in one's mind is on a spectrum. You and I are just on the boring end.